Hey friends, it's Sarah, and today I'm talking about all of the exciting books that are coming out in 2024. Happy New Year, everyone! It is 2024, which means it is time for a whole nother round of exciting new books being published. And I want to talk about the ones that I am most excited about. I'm only going to talk about ones in the first 6 months of the year, so up to and including June, because a lot of them that will be released later in the year haven't been announced yet. So I'll do a second part, like I've done in the previous years, of books coming out from like July to December that I'm excited about closer to that time. For now, let's just dive right in. There's a whole bunch of books I'm really excited about, lots of books from authors I've read before, as well as some long-awaited sequels, so it should be an excellent year for me. Which means I will not get to read a lot of my backlist, it's all going to be new releases. But here we go. So first up, already out by the time this video comes out, is Last Call at the Local by Grunder Ruiz. This came out January 2nd, and it is the third book from the author of Loveless and Fancy Ships, which I absolutely adored. It was originally supposed to be published in 2023, but it got pushed back to the very beginning of 2024. It's another adult romance. It has ADHD as well as OCD rep in it. The synopsis says, opposites attract when a free-spirited American singer-songwriter with ADHD teams up with a charming Irishman to revitalize his family's pub. So it should be super fun. It's like a travel story. I'm very excited. It sounds right up my alley, and I really enjoyed her other two books. Excited to pick this one up when I can. Up next is the first sequel of the year, and that is Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands by Heather Fawcett. This one comes out January 11th and is the sequel to Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, which is a cozy fantasy and was just so adorable. I really love this one. It kind of took me by surprise, but I was head over heels for it this past year. This one I have already pre-ordered. Again, it's a cozy fantasy. It's got like a little bit of romance, and this one follows Emily Wilde and her colleague Wendell maybe Bambleby, as they are attempting to create a map of the fairies in the Austrian Alps. So again, another little bit of like travel. So I am super excited for this one again. I just am so ready for those cozy wintertime kind of fantasy vibes. Perfect for this time of year when it's getting kind of cold. In theory, it's not been very cold here. We had 2 dumps of snow so far, and then it rained on New Year's Eve, which was insanity. Like at 10 p.m. it was raining. Climate change, y'all. I am agog. I am aghast. Is Marius in love at last? No, it's climate change. Okay, can you tell I worked early this morning? Because ooh, she's not making much sense. Third book is The Lily of Ludgate Hall by Mimi Matthews. This is not a sequel, but a continuation of a historical romance set of books, series, I guess. It's like a companion novel, the way that romance tends to be, where you take one character and you write a book about them, and then the next book is about a side character in the first book, but then they're the main character. It's that sort of deal. So this is the Bells of London series, which follow like horsewomen and like blue stockings as they fall in love with various gentlemen of the town. And this is actually Lady Anne's story, and I don't really know too much about it. I was just like, wow, another one, yes please, and thank you. I really loved the first 2. I read them this past year and totally fell in love with them and started a whole historical romance binge. I have a whole video about it if you want to check it out. I will put a link up top and down below. I'm just excited for more really lovely, like feminist but historical romances. I think I've said it before, but I find that with historical romances, I would let the characters get away with a lot more ridiculousness because it's the ye olden days. Who knew it was the Wild West of England in the Victorian era? Anything could happen. And that comes out the following week in January 16th. And then also on January 16th is the conclusion of the Beasts of Prey series, so that's Beasts of War by Ayana Gray. This one is a YA fantasy series, and it starts out in the first book with our main character who was working at this kind of like magical creature zoo and escapes from that, and then meets up with this guy who's like a warrior. I can't remember the whole plot, but this is the conclusion to that series. I remember reading the first one and enjoying it, and then I picked up the second one because I was like, oh, I've read the first one and I really liked it. And I was like, man, I forgot actually how much I like this series. So I'm excited for the third one. I'm hoping it's a similar sort of experience where I get way more invested than I expect to. And I'm really excited to see how the author wraps it all up because it's been a wild ride so far. Then we're going into February. So February 13th, the first book that I'm really excited about is called Bunt, Striking Out on Financial Aid by Ngozi Ukazu and Mad Rupert. So this is the author of Check Please collaborating with another artist, and I don't know if y'all know, I think I've mentioned a couple times, but I love, 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 love Check Please. So I'm super excited to see a whole new story from the same author slash artist. And so this is written by Ngozi and illustrated by Mad. So I am excited to see because I really liked, as I said, I really like Check Please. So I'm really looking forward to checking out this story. It follows Molly, who is in her first year of college, when her scholarship suddenly disappears mysteriously, and so she is trying out for the softball team, and she's trying to get an athletic scholarship through softball in order to continue attending her college. So very exciting. It should be lots of fun times. Then on February 15th, the Knowing the Enduring Legacy of Residential Schools by Tanya Talaga is coming out, and I read Seven Fallen Feathers by this author, which was an incredible piece of investigative journalism into deaths of Indigenous students in the Thunder Bay area. It was heartbreaking and very moving and enraging. So I'm really excited for her to tackle a kind of a bigger subject and dive more into the history of residential schools. This one's also nonfiction. It explores history and consequences of the residential school system. The synopsis says, in The Knowing, award-winning and best-selling Anishinaabe author Tanya Talaga, one of Canada's top investigative journalists, retells the history of this country as only she can, through an Indigenous lens, by tracing the life of her great-great-grandmother and family as they lived through this government and church-sanctioned genocide. So, should be another tough read, but again, very important. Sounds like it'll be very emotional. I'm excited to see how she puts her kind of personal life story into this, because the other one that I read was she was just the journalist, she wasn't involved in it at all, but I'm excited to see how having personal ties to the story affects her writing. Then nothing in March. March is a wash, so I guess that's when I'll read all my backlist books. But then on April 2nd, A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana comes out, and this is the same author as The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, which I read this year and was another cozy fantasy that I really just loved. Kind of romantic, but this one follows Sarah Swan, who resurrected her aunt and as a result of this lost her magic. So she's helping her aunt run an inn and is trying to figure out how to restore her power. When she runs into a grumpy historian who is the only person who might be able to help her figure out the spellbook that'll help her get her powers back. And of course, he's also a one-night stand from years ago. So it's going to be, it sounds like a really fun second chance romance, another kind of grumpy sunshine sort of thing going on like in the first one. I'm excited for this one as well. I think it should be lots of fun. Also on April 2nd, Alison Cochrun is coming out with her third book, which is Here We Go Again. This is a road trip book, which is exciting. I do love a travel story. And Alison Cochrun is the author of The Charm Offensive, which I really loved, as well as Kiss Her Once for Me, which I found more of a 3-star read, but was still enjoyable. And this is old childhood friends who have turned into rivals and then strangers, and now they're in their 30s, and their beloved former English teacher is dying, so they're taking him on a cross-country road trip as his dying wish. I don't know what to expect from this, because you have the friends to rivals to strangers reconnecting, which sounds like it could be a real good chance for lots of funny and awkward interactions, but then you also have their mentor and favorite teacher who is on his deathbed, and they're on a road trip for his dying wish, which sounds like it could be quite emotional. So I'm really interested to see where this goes. It should be a very, I don't want to say fun time, that sounds bad, but it should be an enjoyable read. And then, of course, April 23rd is when the newest installment in the Emily Henry literary universe the EHLU, if you will, comes out. This is a funny story. As soon as she announced it, I pre-ordered it because I was like, I can't not read the new Emily Henry. She's an auto-buy author for me. I've loved every single one of her books, and I am super excited for this one. It follows two characters who are forced to be roommates with their ex's new fiance's ex. That doesn't make sense. So it follows the main character who ends up being roommates with the ex of her ex's fiance. So her and her ex broke up, he got engaged to someone else, and that person's ex is now her roommate. It's a crazy love square, it's madness, and it involves some fake dating and opposites attract sort of thing, and I think it sounds like a really funny story, as the title suggests, but I think it should be another excellent Emily Henry, good humor, but other stuff going on, not just the romance. And I'm really excited to see how she kind of subverts the tropes, because I think that's the thing that I enjoy most about her books, is that she takes our favorite romance tropes and then she does something just a little bit different with them, so it doesn't feel samey the way that some romance books can. So you never quite know, even though they have these tropes, she doesn't ever quite follow the same script, and you're never quite sure where you're going to end up. Though, can't wait. Then another super excited one. April's going to be a great month. April 30th, Heavenly Tyrant by Xiran Zhao is coming out. Finally, this was supposed to come out again in 2023, but had to be pushed due to publishing issues. If you go check out their socials, they have a really interesting video about why this had to be pushed back, mostly for monetary reasons. And it is a really interesting look into how publishing works. So, highly recommend checking that out. So, Heavenly Tyrant is the sequel to Iron Widow, and as you can tell, I really enjoyed this book. It's a little bit like Pacific Rim, where they have the mecha suits that they fight, and there's two pilots. It's full of feminist ideas, female rage, ideas around racism, and it's really great. I really loved it, and I'm really excited for the second one because it left off on a cliffhanger, and I have been on tenterhooks ever since. When did this come out? Like 2020, I think? Has it been 4 years? No, 2021. So I've been on tenterhooks for like 3 years at this point, desperately waiting for Heavenly Tyrant. And so April 30th, again, this is another one that I've pre-ordered. Xiran is a new auto-buy author for me as well. I've read their first installment in their middle grade series, and it was excellent. So I'm just so excited to see what else they come up with, and I can't wait to finish the Iron Widow series. May 23rd is the release date for Goddess of the River by Vaishnavi Patel, who wrote Kaikei. This is a reimagining of the Hindu story of Ganga, I think that's how you say it, the goddess of river, and then her mortal son. I really loved this author's first book. I thought it was incredibly well done. It had a really interesting, complex main character, and I can't wait to see what this one is going to be like. I've gone into it knowing almost nothing, and that's fine with me. I trust this author to take me on a fabulous journey, and we'll see in May how it goes. Also, thank you to Jenny from This Story Ain't Over for suggesting this book so much on her channel, because that's how I discovered it, and it was chef's kiss. She was so right. She was so right. Penultimate one is There Is a Door in the Darkness by Kristen Cashore. This comes out June 4th, and it's a magical realism YA book. Kristen Cashore is the author of the Graceling series, which I absolutely adore. And I read her other contemporary YA, I guess it was also magical realism. I read her other book called Jane Unlimited, and I found that medium, but every single installment of the Graceling series is an absolute banger. There are no flops, and I'm really excited to see how this new one is. I hope it's more on par with Graceling and less with Jane Unlimited, because that one, like I said, it was fine, but it didn't give me the same feeling as reading the Graceling books does. I don't really know what this one's about too much. I haven't seen a whole lot about the plot, but it's set in like modern times and deals with grief and the current political climate and like presidential elections and COVID and stuff. So I'm really intrigued by this, and I guess we'll just have to see what happens in June. Now, the final book that I am most excited for in the first half of 2024 is Past, Present, Future by Rachel Lynn Solomon. This is also a June 4th release, and it's a sequel to Today, Tonight, Tomorrow. And Rachel Lynn Solomon, I think, is also becoming an auto-buy author. I haven't ordered this yet, but I need to do that. This reminder, I'm gonna go do that, pre-order that as soon as I'm done here. But I just really love her teen books. I love her adult romances. I think they get better with each book that she writes. With every book she writes, it just gets better and better. And I am so glad that one of my coworkers managed to turn me on to her books, because I fall so deeply in love with her characters, and her romances are so swoon-worthy, and I will just read everything she writes. Anyways, this is a sequel to Today, Tonight, Tomorrow, as I said, and it follows Neil and Rowan as they go off to different universities in different towns and kind of have this long-distance relationship that they have to navigate while also going through their first years of university. And if that's not enough to intrigue you, Rachel herself said that she originally just wanted to pitch this book as Neil McNair Sexteen. So there you go. It is a YA book, but I think it'll be an older YA book, as her books tend to be. They usually have a little bit of discussion around sex. It's not super graphic usually. It's age appropriate, but it is more on the 17-year-old age of the teen section than the 13-year-old end of the age range. Those are the 13 new releases in the first half of 2024 that I am most excited about. There's a lot of really good ones on here, a lot of sequels to favorite books, a lot of new releases from favorite authors, and I can't wait to get my grubby little hands all over them and lock myself in a room and read them as soon as they come out. But let me know what books you're really excited for in 2024. There's so many books. I'm sure there's a ton that I would love to read that I haven't even heard of. So let me know down in the comments what you're looking forward to. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. Now go read a book. Better, more, better, good, yes words. Yup, I don't know what to say about that. As opposites attract when a few, those, I don't even know how many I have. 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess, I don't know what I'm saying. Pacific Rim-y a little bit. That sounds bad.